years ago, my father and I took a trip to Garner, Iowa, northern part of Iowa, and we went there so that I could participate in the installation of newly minted Pastor James Lamb. We have Pastor Lamb with us here at our Concordia Seminary Houston studio on the floor of the Synodical Convention. And Pastor Lamb, Dr. Lamb, is now the Executive Director of Lutherans for Life. And we want to hear how it's going with Lutherans for Life and if there's hope for the life cause. First of all, welcome, Jim.
Thank
Glad
you.
to see you again.
Thank you very much. It's always good to visit with you and to be on the campus of Concordia Seminary. I get down there at least once a year to talk to the graduating students each year, and we provide them with a manual of our materials so they have resources readily available for them. So I always enjoy getting back to my alma mater.
One of our staff workers said that you did a great job last time you were there. I was probably off traveling someplace in the country. I know I wasn't there.
Yeah.
So what kind of things do you tell our own newly minted pastors?
We try to encourage them to understand the connection between the theology that they're learning and getting and being able to articulate from our seminaries and the life issues that are out there. My favorite thing to say and to tell the students, to tell anybody who will listen, is that the gospel of Jesus Christ is the most powerful and positive for-life message in the universe. And if you think about it, the gospel is tailor-made for the life issues. You know, issues of life, death, pain, suffering, regret, guilt. The gospel speaks to all of those things. I remember we were talking about strategic planning with my board of directors, and one of my board members said, you know, we need to teach our pastors to deal with the life issues. And I rarely disagree with a board member, but
That's smart. That's smart.
but I had to. I said, no, we don't, because they already have what they need. It's our theology, and it's the gospel. What we have to do is just help them make the connection to help understand that the gospel speaks to these issues, and then provide them with the resources to equip them and make it easy for them to do that. Because the life issues they're more complicated every day. You know, you get into stem cells and cloning and all those things, and pastors don't have time to dig into that. But we do.
Lutherans for Life is into all those other issues.
Yes, absolutely.
And I presume that you have a website where you share a lot of that information?
We do, lutheransforlife.org.
lutheransforlife.org. And what you say is it's obvious, but it finally got into my thick head some time back. Pastor doesn't have the time to research all of this. And it's the same way with other theological subjects. A pastor is taking care of his congregation, shut-in calls, hospital calls, preparing the sermons, the Bible classes, and so we have the seminary faculties who are able also to pass along information about whatever it happens to be. So Lutherans for Life is a resource for more than just the abortion issue. It's for many life issues.
Absolutely. We stress, we capitalize for in our title, even though grammatically that's not correct. But we do that purposely to stress that we're a for-life organization. And the reason we're for life is because God is. You know, and we try to help pastors help their congregations raise these issues, above being just political issues, above even being just moral issues. Because for us, they're biblical issues, they're spiritual issues. Because when you're dealing with life, messing with life, you're messing with the author and the redeemer and the sanctifier of life.
You talk about life, I'm reminded that Dr. Luther in his commentary on 1 Peter said, you haven't preached the gospel until you've preached the resurrection. It doesn't end with the death of Good Friday, it ends with the life of Easter Sunday. Do you get a lot of contacts from pastors and lay people seeking information?
Yes. We see ourselves as a resource for our pastors and congregations to do a couple of things to help them understand that it is the church's responsibility to deal with these issues, not Lutherans for Life. But again, they're equipped with what they need to do that in the gospel, and we want to be there to provide the resources to help them do that. For example, we have a DVD on stem cell research, and pastors love it. It comes a little Bible study, and they just plug it in. and we help make that biology easy and simple, because once you understand the simple biology, for example, then it's easy to bring in our theology to that. And so that's what we do for pastors.
Is it possible to share, or maybe we'll back that question up? Have you had any success with sharing your materials with people in Congress?
No, but on the other hand, we haven't made really a concerted effort to do that.
And the reason I asked the question is I suspected it would be difficult even if you had made the effort. But it seems to me that the mood is more and more shifting in the country to life.
Yes, there's no question about that.
Would you play that out a little bit for us?
Sure. I see that. I'm seeing that more and more with the present administration, for example, in our country, who is so pro-abortion. That has caused some people to kind of wake up a bit, say, we need to do something. But I also see more and more of our pastors coming out of our seminaries that are not just pro-life, saying, I am pro-life, but they're ready to face these issues and to educate their people about these issues. And I'm just seeing that more and more across the board. And the other positive thing I'm seeing is with our young people, the younger generation, our college students, more and more pro-life. The surveys show that. I've seen that anecdotally. And on campuses, what I'm seeing is that even if not everyone agrees necessarily with what I'm saying, they're open to listen to it and to have some dialogue, reasonable dialogue. Where earlier on in this ministry, I remember I was at University of New Mexico, and they introduced me, and I got up to speak, and there's a whole contingent of students. They were sitting in the back 2 rows. They were all clustered together, and as soon as I went up to the lectern, they just stood up in mass and marched out, and it's protesting. But that's shifted, that's changed, and there's an openness to this message now on our campuses, and we have groups like Students for Life that are out there and doing a marvelous job of helping students on campus articulate the arguments for these issues.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it has to be presented with real compassion, because when we get into our pulpits, there certainly are people in front of us who have had an abortion, been involved in an abortion in some way, and they don't need to be beat up, do they?
No. The women, men who have been crushed by the law already in an aftermath of an abortion. There's a bumper sticker that says, in your heart it's wrong. And God has put that in our hearts. And when the reality of what they've done hits, it crushes them. And so, yes, pastors need to be very sensitive, because you look at 3,200 abortions every day, and for every single abortion, at least 10 other people are affected. So that's 32,000 people every day in this country affected in one way or another by an abortion. And we also know that around 70 to 75% of those say they are Christian who are having abortions. So for a pastor to say, well, there aren't any of those folks in my pews, that's just naive. They are out there, and many, many of them are really hurting. So I will often, I had you for homiletics when I was at the seminary. So
I'm sure you learned a lot more afterwards.
I learned a great deal from you, especially about outlining and presenting. But I have to admit to you that I've sometimes violated the Lutheran way of preaching in terms of law, gospel. Sometimes in life sermons I preach gospel, law, gospel. In other words, and maybe a better way to put it, and I think Walther would agree with this, is to preach grace and then law and gospel. In other words, we live in grace, and we're surrounded by the grace.
What you say is very justifiable, because, as you said, people come. The law has been working in their hearts.
That's already there.
Even apart from abortion issues, the law is always working in our hearts, and there's nothing wrong with a sweet, inviting come unto me, word from Jesus early on, and then you can start to mine the law gospel dynamics.
Yeah, that's it.
I discovered that on the radio when I was doing a Lutheran hour. If you start beating the people up in the first seconds of the broadcast, they're going to turn it on. Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I like to do and encourage pastors to do is, because when I get in the pulpit, you know, a guest preacher from Lutherans for Life, I mean, everybody knows that we're going to talk about life issues today. And so I'm usually up front with that. I say, I know there's all kinds of people out here listening to this that they might think these are political issues, we shouldn't be talking about them, and so forth. And I say, and there may be somebody here who's had an abortion or been involved in that. And it just hurts to hear somebody like me talk about it. So I say, I'm going to pause now because I want to have a word just with you folks, if there's anybody out there. And it's one word, and it's welcome. Welcome here with the rest of us sinners. Because you see, it's not the sin of abortion that separates us from God. It's sin that separates us from God, and all of us stand equally guilty. And so from that base then, as you said, now we can move forward. Because you also have to preach the law, because right next to that woman who's had an abortion is someone who thinks it's a woman's right to do that. See? So it's a tough thing for pastors to do, and that's why we try to, we have people write sermons for our Life Sunday every year, and make sure those dynamics are in there, and we offer those to pastors to use and take them apart, whatever they want to do.
Sure. Tell us about your tie.
I'd love to tell you about my tie. This tie, that's our grandchildren.
Can you get the tie here? Can you zoom in on the tie?
Zoom in on the tie. This is a gift from our grandchildren at Christmas time, and we have 4 of them. And so there they are, Jamie and Luke and Grant and Zane. And then that picture is just repeated. So I wear it. It actually draws people into our display here at the convention when they come over. And so I tell folks I'm not the kind of guy who, I'm an introvert by nature. I'm not the kind of guy that would say, you know, ask me about my grandchildren, but I would say ask me about my tie.
Do your grandchildren live near you?
No, they don't, unfortunately. They live near here. They're in San Antonio, Texas. All 4 of these are.
We have 2 grandchildren there in Washington, D.C., and I wish they were closer.
I know.
I wish they were closer. Anyway, we've got a little gift we want to give to you, Jim. This is just recently produced by our faculty. The American Mind Meets the Mind of Christ. And that's exactly the intersection that you're at.
Yes.
The American mind, the pro-choice. It's my own body. I'm not accountable to anybody. And who are you to tell me what to do? And the mind of Christ, which is a mind of self-sacrificing love that leads to real life. So we'd like to give this to you as an inadequate expression of our thanks and Concordia Seminary thanks for what you and Lutherans for Life are doing. So,
well, my thanks for this gift, and my thanks for everything that you do and your faculty does at the seminary, because that's another positive thing that I've seen in my 14 years of doing this, is the seminaries are much more receptive to us. They're dealing with these issues more than they did when I went through there, and that's bearing fruit out there.
Well, keep coming back to St. Louis.
I will.
God bless you, Jim.
Thank you.